Ja, velkommen til værkanalen. Vi skal nå ut og gå en liten tur, bare for å ta noen bilder av i all hovedsak været da, men jeg håper jo at vi skal klare å finne noen interessante ting å vise i løpet av denne turen vi skal gå. For som dere ser, så er det et aldeles nydelig turvær nå. Vi tenkte å starte turen med å gå i elveløpet til Rio Albarecas. Det har jo vært mye vann her nylig, så det er en del størkna slim langs kantene. Men ikke verre enn at det går an å gå på, tror jeg. En liten pussig detalj er denne sprekken i betongen her, med all den vegetasjonen som har vokst opp midt i betongen. Det er bare en aldeles liten tynne sprekk som har ført til en voldsom oppgroing av vegetasjon. Og det må ha skjedd i løpet av bare få dager siden. Ja, bare få dager siden så sto dette under vann. Jeg lurer på om det er for tidlig å konkludere med at det har blitt vår i Merida. Det ser ganske vårlig ut. Og det føles ganske mildt ut også akkurat nå. Ikke noe tegn til spiring på trærne, men de trærne der er sent ute, alltid. Det er en del trær som har begynt å få nye skudd nå. Denne beden av San Lasso-akvadukten er ikke romersk. Den er bygd på grunn av at byen trengte vann etter den romerske akvadukten sluttet å virke. Så den er bygd for 500-600 år siden bare. Skal vi kalle det en moderne akvadukt. Ja, det var dagens værrapport fra Merida. Været i San Miguel de Salinas og i Santa Fe og i Øygarden og flere andre steder, det er i kaffebloggen det. Så den skal dere få se nå.
Klokken 12.
Politiet i Stavanger pågrep i går kveld 4 mennesker mistenkt for å drive med ulovlige radiosendinger. Sendingene, som pågikk i hele går, forstyrret blant annet instrumentene på skolen.
God morgen fra Filippinene. Klokka litt over 6. Sola er kommet opp. Av med lille bay bak der. Ingen skyer på himmelen. Høyeste temperatur i dag vil bli 32 grader. Ha en god dag alle sammen. Ja, jeg får vel begynne med å si god morgen da.
skal vi ikke starte negativt. Men her jeg nå står i mørket, på å si midt på natten, alt for tidlig på morgenen, så kan jeg ikke engang avgjøre hva musikk jeg skal bruke på dette her, om det skal være Grieg eller Pink Floyd, morgenstemning eller Obscured by Clouds. Det er helt umulig å se. Jeg ser noen stjerner, så vi kan jo være optimistiske. Men vi vet først om noen timer, når været fra San Miguel og sånt kommer. For det er mange timer til. Så vi får bare stå her og vente på at vi skal få været fra San Miguel. Som sagt, mange timer til. Ja, riktig god tirsdag, og velkommen til en kaffeblogg. Produsert midt på natten. I hvert fall denne delen av den. Ja, jeg sa det er lenge til der kommer været fra Ove, og det er det fremdeles lenge til. Men jeg sitter her og kjeder meg rett og slett. Det er ingenting å se på radio, det er ingenting å høre på TV. Ja, var ikke det motsatt da? Ja. Kan godt høre på TV og se på radio, det går helt fint. Se den fine radioen, kan jo se på den. Ja. Nei, altså... Så jeg fikk rett og slett bare lyst til å begynne å lage kaffebloggen en gang. Se hva innslag vi har. Så er det sånn at... Jeg er nesten glad at jeg ikke er i Santa Fe nå. For der ser det ikke noe særlig kult ut, altså.
Ved Santa Fe.
Hei, godt folk. I går hadde vi deilig vårvær. Oi, det skulle jeg visst ikke ha gjort. Og i dag så har vinteren returnert. Plutselig nok så var det ganske fint i dag morges, men det har, som dere ser, snudd. Ja, nå ser jeg jo nesten ingenting. Ja. Herregud, altså. Jeg så hadde jo bare sikker på at i dag var det bare ut og jobbe i hagen og kose seg i vårsolen. Men den gang ei. Dette her er jo mye verre enn det har vært på en god stund. Men se. Jeg vet hvor jeg skal, det er bare det at jeg vet ikke hvor det er henne. Så her er det bare å bruke tålmodigheten. Jeg ser jo nesten ingenting heller. Men se, kanskje her, kanskje her, kanskje her. Så ja da. Jeg finner vel før eller siden den veien jeg leide etter. Det er kanskje 109, jeg trodde det var på 105, men dette ser jo kjent ut, ok. Hipp hurra for varmeapparat i bilen. Der er trekuttebilen som jeg hadde besøk av for et par uker siden. Nei, stå på gutter. Ok, men da var mitt lille oppdrag her utført. Jeg tror faktisk talt bare det er å ta seg en rask tur bort i butikken og få handlet inn litt matvarer og kanskje et par øl. Og så bare si at denne dagen her er ikke noe mer å bry seg om. Det er heldigvis ikke noe kaldt, og i morgen så skal det... I morgen så skal vi ikke ha denne her driten her, ifølge værmeldingen. Jeg trodde ikke at dette her skulle blåse inn, for det var så fint I går, men vel. Det veksler litt her I Ville Vesten. Eller, det vel helst oppe I The Rocky Mountains, det så vekslende. Og denne vinteren her har jo, som jeg jo har nevnt nå, til det kjedsommelige vært aldeles forferdelig. Ha det bare godt, folk.
Nei, det får prøve å styre litt mot solen. Set your controls for the heart of the sun. Ja, på oppfordring fra deg, Knut, eller I hvert fall på tips fra deg, så fant jeg jo den der Dagbladet sin versjon av snømåking I Trollstien. Dagbladet jo så greie å ha med, gjør de. Hvis du spør de om å bruke en video, så sier de alltid ja. Jeg pleier bare å skrive det I kommentarfeltet på en video, sånn. Kan jeg bruke denne I kaffebloggen? Da går det vanligvis veldig korte stunder, så skriver jeg selvfølgelig kan du bruke den I kaffebloggen så lenge at du forteller at den kommer fra Dagbladet TV. Så det greie å ha med å gjøre. Det var vel Dagbladet TV opprinnelig av denne neste videoen ifra også. Det ikke logo på den, men det får vi stå sin prøve. Jeg tror det var de han kom ifra uansett. Det viser også hvor håpløst det I Norge av og til. Huff og huff, altså, for en video. Se her, grusomme greier.
Det bare kød. Men jeg skal lage en snutte da, så send den. Det fikk jeg på. Det får ut video. Da ferdig.
I helvete, jorden her!
Altså, send den. Det fikk jeg på. Det får ut video. Da ferdig.
I helvete, så skjedde det her!
Ja, det gikk nå heldigvis bra med begge sjåførene. Du ser han ene, han klarer å hoppe ut. Og ser du det? Han så proff at han lukker bildøren etter seg når han hopper ut av bilen. Og han så det ber ut forbi med, han klarte seg ganske bra, han også. Heldigvis, da, heldigvis. Ja, for et par dager siden så hadde vi jo en sånn kjekke konsert, så Raffen 79 ga oss ifra Sandnes. Jeg må si at vet du hva jeg gjorde etterpå? Altså, jeg liker jo veldig godt Pink Floyd, men jeg har sikkert ikke hørt Maguma på 15 år. Jeg har jo Maguma på CD. Men om jeg har noe som kan spille sånne optiske lagringsenheter nå, det... Jo, jeg skulle sikkert klart å funne en, men jeg tok rett og slett og lastet den ned på iPhonen min. Så I går når vi satt og spiste, så hørte jeg på Maguma. Ja, på restauranten da. Det var jo litt av en spesielle ting å gjøre. Nei, kultur det veldig kjekt. Jeg fikk et kulturinnslag fra Ragnar Kisten I går. Så... velkommen som bidragsyter til kaffebloggen Ragnar Kisten. Det du gjorde I går, du skrev det I chatten, det litt farlig. For chatten det ikke noen sånn permanente tekster. Men jeg glemte ikke ut at jeg hadde lovt å se en video som du skrev I chatten. Men det bedre å skrive det I kommentarene, for da ligger det sånn permanent hele veien. Men nå over til Ragnar Kisten sitt kulturinnslag. Ja, kjekt det. Stå på og send innslag fra hele verden til kaffebloggen, så skal vi ta de med. Ja, som vi alltid har gjort ifra Terje. Det vel det 5. videoen den du sender i dag. Det tror jeg en sånn automatisk genererte video, men det går an å bruke, det ikke noe feil på de. Nei, så Terje i Kolding har ordet. Eller har han det? Jeg tror bare det musikk, men da kommer i hvert fall videoen hans. Nå.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again, because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping, and the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence. In restless dreams I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone, neath the halo of a street lamp. I turned my collar to the cold and damp, when my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light that split the night and touched the sound of silence. And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people maybe.
Ja, kjekke bilder det, Terje. Takk for de. Jeg sitter her og hører på Morgennytt på NRK P2. Og de har ikke engang kommet til Politisk kvarter, for det har ikke begynt ennå så tidlig på morgenen er det. Men de har allerede klart å gjøre meg hissige. Det er helt utrolig, altså. Det skal vist være omkamper på absolutt alt her i verden. Har ikke Norge for veldig kort tid siden sagt veldig klart ifra, altså med norske innbyggere, med som bor i Norge, har ikke vi sagt så tydelig klart ifra at vi ikke vil arrangere OL? Vi vil ikke bruke pengene våre, skattepengene våre, på noe så unyttig som arrangere et OL. Det har vi sagt så klart ifra om. Og nå begynner de å mase igjen om å arrangere OL i Norge. Vi vil ikke ha OL i Norge. Vi har bestemt det. Vi hadde folkeavstemning om det. Vi var enige om at vi ikke skulle ha OL i Norge. Men denne sportsidioten, de gir seg ikke, altså. De står der og peser på og prøver å presse gjennom et OL igjen. Omkamp på absolutt alt. Men politikere, vet du, de er jo ikke til å stole på, altså, ikke sant? Du vet, vi er nervøse hele veien med, altså. Sånn som han der en slagsmålfyren der går rundt og... Altså, hvis EØS-avtalen ryker, så er jeg død, er du klar over det? Altså, jeg får ikke noe helsebehandling i Norge. Jeg har prøvd det norske helsesystemet, og det suger. Jeg er nødt for å få benytte meg av det spanske helsesystemet. Dessuten så tåler ikke jeg klima i Norge. Og han der Vedum-fyren, altså, han tenker jo bare egoisme. Altså, jeg mener det at vi må ta og sentralisere landet. Vi må flytte folk fra bygdene og inn i byene, så det ikke blir behov for så mye bilkjøring. Det er best for miljøet. Legg ned jordbruket, for kyrne bare produserer CO2 uansett. Legg ned Senterpartiet, få vekk den dritten. Var ikke det seriøst? Skal ikke alltid være helt seriøse. Ja. Altså, han der Trygve Slagsmål Vedum, altså, han virkelig provoserer meg, jeg må si det. Og så det at de vil ha OL, enda en gang skal de prøve å få OL i Norge. Vi sa nei, vi vil ikke ha OL i Norge. Vi vil bruke pengene på de gamle og de syke. Jeg er oppgitt. OL, altså. Enda en gang. Nei, nå begynner vist været å komme inn her, så jeg kan sette over til San Miguel. Jeg må tilstå at det ikke er helt sant. Jeg sitter nå fremdeles og venter på det. Jeg tror at været fra San Miguel kommer i løpet av den nærmeste timen. Så da etterpå så kan jeg filme Øygården og sånt noe. Men over til OE. Nå skal vi til San Miguel, selv om det går en time før det kommer. Jeg tror ikke vi bruker Obscured by Clouds i dag. Vi bruker vel gjerne Grieg. Ja, for det så ikke håpløst ut. Der, folk sykler på jobben. Det er faktisk ikke så voldsomt kaldt heller. Så jeg står nå her i morgenkåpe med... Den går nå bare til knærne, så jeg har nå leggene helt bare, og... Det er faktisk ikke så... Jeg fryser faktisk ikke, altså, for å si det sånn. Så... Nei, det blir Grieg. Det blir Grieg. Morgenstemning av Grieg. Og så kan vi se på San Miguel de Salinas.
God morgen, her er fra San Miguel. Ja, det er en lette dis denne morgenen her. Det kommer til å bli sånn lett skyet. Hvis det blir noen skyer hele dette. Det kommer til å bli rundt 15-16 grader, og nattemperaturen ligger på en 10 grader. Vinden derimot kommer til å stige opp mot en 8-9 meter sekund. Sola kommer til å gå ned ca. 8 minutter over 6:30 i kveld. Ha en riktig god dag alle sammen.
Vet du, Ove, da får vi faktisk bedre i Merida enn i San Miguel i dag. Vi får cirka samme temperaturen, det skal være skyfritt, og så skal det være blikkstille. Til og med på Lindesnes er det jo mer vindstille enn det du skal ha hos deg i dag. Utrolig så mye det blåste der nede hos dere, altså. Det er vel litt av det som er negativt med tåreværområdet.
Stavanger, the most beautiful city.
Ja, det så noe veldig stille ut i Stavanger også. Så kanskje det er håp for at det har stillet opp i Øygarden også, sånn at de kan gå i gang og heve denne fregatten. Jeg tror han blir liggende til langt ut på sommeren, for min del, men jeg får nå se. Over til Øygarden. Ja, det er noe stillere i Øygarden da, men kranen har ennå ikke kommet på plass. Den ligger der, og ja, de betaler jo litt leie for den og sånt. Vet du hva denne her redningsaksjonen koster i minuttet? Det er ganske billigt. Det er bare 4.000 kroner minuttet. Så det vil da si at til nå har det kostet ca. 0,5 milliard. 4.000 kroner minuttet. Det er billigt. Holdt på å si de skulle flytte øygarden til Merida. Jeg vet ikke helt hvordan det gjør sånn rent logistisk da. Nei, men her er det blikkstille. Som alltid. Det er ikke... Skal vi zoome inn på det? Dere kan se noe bevegelse i de der tynne greinene der. Det kan ikke jeg. Jeg står her fremdeles med bare legger i morgenkåpe, og jeg kjenner ikke antydning til at det er bevegelse i lufta. Det er sånn som det er her. Nesten alltid. Nei, jeg tror vi får en fin dag i dag. Ja, kanskje det blir over 20 grader også. Det er så vindstille. Det skulle ikke forundre meg. Ja, det var været både her og der. Jeg vet ikke hvordan det så ut, for dette her har jeg tatt opp lenge før jeg har sett på været. Jeg har ikke fått værinnslag fra OE, jeg har ikke spilt en vær fra Lindesnes, ikke fra Stavanger, ikke fra Øygarden. Jeg trenger ikke gjøre alt helt kronologisk alltid. Det er jo dere som ser det, som skal tro at vi har gjort det. Men du vet, TV er bare juks, det har det alltid vært. Vet du, vi skal se en dokumentar i dag. Jeg sa i kaffebloggen her på, var det lørdag, at det skulle bli lenge til vi viste en lang dokumentar i kaffebloggen. Men vi har jo en beslutning bare inntil vi tar en annen. Jeg fikk en sånn, skal vi si, en veldig hyggelig melding her på Facebook. Så jeg bare kan klare å få opp den da, skal vi se, få den opp. Fra Jan Roar Hansen. Han sier takk til Are Helgeland som penset meg inn på denne videoen. Det beste eksempelet på hvor kriminelle våre politikere, politi og justisvesen og deres ledtog med den superkriminelle farmaceutiske mafiaen. Vent, jeg må få litt større bokstaver, jeg klarer nesten ikke lese dette. Så, jeg har ikke så gode briller, nå har jeg fått forstørre det. Jeg begynner med en. Det beste eksempelet på hvor kriminelle våre politikere, politi og justisvesen deres ledtog med den superkriminelle farmaceutiske mafiaen. Hvor mange liv har opprettholdelsen av dette mafiasystemet kostet? Hvor mange har blitt medisinert i hjel av våre myndigheter? Ja, hvem vet? En ting vet jeg i alle fall, og det at naturmedisinen som kurerer det meste aldri vil bli lovlig. Med mindre medisinmafiaen får eierskapet. For slik vårt land. Med svik skal landet bygges. Og for de som har lest litt, så vet de jo at den eneste grunnen til at dette ble ulovlig, det var at spritpolitiet i USA plutselig sto uten arbeid, da sprit ble lovlig igjen etter forbudstiden. Så da fant de på at denne naturmedisinen skulle være ulovlig, og bygde opp et svært apparat rundt dette. Det er det dreier seg om. Det er å holde seg selv og sine kompanjonger med arbeid og penger. Ja. Jeg har sagt det før om herr Jenslinger og hvordan han rett og slett skrev loven om forbud mot marihuana rett og slett for ikke å bli arbeidsledige. Det er helt sinnssykt. Det er helt for jævla sinnssykt, altså. Det er så faen, altså. Nei, jeg må bare si, nå forsvant hele artikkelen her for meg. Tusen takk til Jan Roar Hansen, og altså, det er greit nok at jeg gjerne penser deg inn på videoen, men den videoen du har lagt med der, Healing Cancer with Cannabis, det er Rick Simpson story. Det er jo en film som aldri har kommet ut det. Den filmen har gått og ventet på i årevis. Han kommer aldri ut. Men du har klart å finne en veldig, veldig liten YouTuber Han har mindre enn 1000 abonnenter. 796 var det vel, bare. Og han har den arbeidskopien. Der ligger det en forferdelig irriterende tidskode gjennom hele filmen. Den har jeg lagt kaffebloggen-logo på. Her også ligger det en tidskode av og til. Jeg kan liksom ikke blakke ut den også. Prøv å se vekk fra tidskodene. Prøv å virkelig sette dere inn. Sett dere ned og hør på dette. Altså, de som har lagt filmen gikk konk før de var ferdige. Så de fikk aldri gjort den ferdige. Men jeg er i hvert fall veldig glad for at han her YouTuberen som jeg dessverre ikke har navnet på, men det kommer nå helt i starten av videoen da. Jeg har det ikke foran meg akkurat nå, at han har lagt ut denne arbeidskopien. Så tusen takk for det. Og der skal vist nok forelegge en arbeidskopi av en annen film også, som jeg er på jakt etter. Så her kommer nå altså Healing Cancer with Cannabis, The Rick Simpson Story. Men det er ikke Run from the Cure, det er en helt annen versjon, som dessverre aldri ble helt ferdig. Den er 90 minutter lang. God fornøyelse.
Alright, Rick Simpson story's coming on about the raid next. It's supposed to be on.
In New Brunswick this morning. Well, the medical marijuana debate is igniting across North America, and believe it or not, one of the key battlegrounds is in the tiny community of McCann, Nova Scotia. A man there has been giving away a marijuana extract. Local residents and some others around the world believe it's a cure for cancer and many other diseases. But now, Rick Simpson is hiding out in Amsterdam, fearing if he returns home, he will be arrested on the spot. Here's Global's Devin Stevens.
And if I go back to Canada, they'll charge me, and they'll put me in jail.
It all surrounds this thick black hemp oil. Rick Simpson has been making it from marijuana buds for years. But while in Amsterdam last week, RCMP raided his property.
And I know they won't give me bail, because I'm like a 3-time loser. And if I go to jail with no bail and no medicine, it'll probably kill me. Right. So I'm not willing to commit suicide for Mr. Harper.
When I was a young boy, growing up, I was proud to be a Canadian. We were beloved around the world for our efforts in World War II and our reputation as being generous, compassionate. Canada was a world leader, showing the strength of our ancestors and our innovative nature, uniting a country through all its different terrains and all its different people. In this vast, beautiful, beautiful land. But was it all an illusion? Over time, the Canada that I knew began to change. It seems that policy began taking precedence over people.
But I don't believe I've seen your face, and I'm tired of acting too late.
I heard stories of a man in Nova Scotia who claimed to have healed people of cancer using cannabis oil.
As I thought I'd never come home.
Had the government suppressed cure for cancer? And had it been discovered right here in Eastern Canada? I'm not sure if I believed it at first.
Coming up to Rick Simpson's house. Rick's been gone for quite a while. It's a great thing that he's back and we get a chance to talk to him here. It's always a hard driveway to Kid. And you'd almost drive right by it, never know it. This driveway used to be just full of cars every time I come. Hey there, big guy.
Hey, Chris. Back to the home of the cure, did you?
Yeah. Happy to be home?
So-so.
Right
Just so-so.
Right
I'll be leaving again in another day or two, so. The story really begins in 1969 when my 22-year-old cousin was diagnosed with cancer. They did an operation, and then afterwards I believe they gave him chemo, and he dropped from 200 pounds down to 120 pounds. Then 3 years later, in 1972, well, actually the doctors had said at the time they thought they got it all. But 3 years later, in 1972, he came home on vacation, and we were talking one day, and he collapsed right in front of me. And I suspected it was probably the cancer back, but I was hoping it wasn't. And of course, he went back to Ontario, and as soon as he went in and seen the doctors, they just said, you've got 3 to 6 months to live. So he came back to Spring Hill, and within 3 months he was dead. And I watched him grade down to about 55 pounds. It was just horrible. My cousin was more like a brother to me. We grew up together in the country. We knew each other intimately. So it really affected me quite badly. And then about 3 years later, I was leaving work one day. I worked at All Saints Hospital in Spring Hill. And I just got in the car and I turned on the radio, and the local radio station in Amherst, CKDH, they were reading a report on the radio station about the THC, the active ingredient in marijuana, killing cancer cells. And of course the announcer was laughing like a fool when he was making these statements. So I didn't know whether to take it seriously or not. But, you know, time went on and I never heard nothing more about THC killing cancer cells or anything, so I thought it was just some type of hoax. In 1997, I had a severe head injury at work. I wound up with what they call post-concussion syndrome. My head rings 24 hours a day, and that in turn that brings your blood pressure up. I had a lot of balance issues from the injury and things like that. So, I mean, I went through the medical system. I took their pills for 5 years. I took every chemical they threw at me. But they did nothing but make me worse. And then in 1998, about a year after I was injured, I seen an episode of The Nature of Things with Dr. David Suzuki called Reefer Madness 2. And it showed all these people on there smoking pot for their medical problems, and they were being helped. I was, you know, quite desperate, so I went out and I got some pot from friends nearby, and I smoked it, and it did more for me than anything the doctors were giving me. So I went back to the doctors. Every doctor I seen, I asked them for prescriptions for hemp, but not one doctor would give me a prescription. Then in 1999, I was in my doctor's office, and when I was talking to him, of course, I was always asking for a prescription, and again, he refused me. But I asked the doctor that day when I was in there, I said, you know, what would you think if I, as opposed to smoking the plant material, what would you think if I made the essential oil of the plant and ingested it? And the doctor said that that would be a much more medicinal way to use the substance, but he still wouldn't give me a prescription. Now, this is all grown in now. You can see up here, this was all plants. Then in 2001, they called me into his office. They told me that they had given me everything that they had to offer, and nothing was helping me, so I was on my own. And again, I asked the doctor for a prescription for hemp. Again, I was refused. And I mean, the doctor knew that this was the only thing that was helping me. And he also knew that if I was caught with hemp, that I would be charged as a criminal, because he didn't give me a prescription. So, you know, I was kind of left between the devil and the deep blue sea. I mean, what am I supposed to do? I think it pretty well has to break open this year, because there's so much happening, you know, in all these other countries. There's nothing going to happen here unless it's forced. Now, I didn't know anything about what the oil would do. I was very afraid of this substance in the beginning. You know, I mean, I knew smoking pot wasn't harmful, but this oil is really it's a concentrate. you know, and it's a very powerful concentrate. I, you know, started taking the oil on a steady basis, and I started getting more sleep. See, like, with the condition I have, the ringing in the head 24 hours, it stops you from sleeping. And all the pills they gave me, they never gave me one pill that would put me to sleep. So the oil really was working miracles for me in that way. And what happened, I started losing all this weight. And it was scary in the beginning because I thought, you know, like it was hurting me. But my weight dropped from about 185, 190 down to 160, and then it just leveled off. And my arthritis in my knees, that disappeared. Like in 2002, I went to see the doctor about the skin cancer I had. I had 3 areas. I had one here in my cheek, and one on my chest, and one right there by my eye. And I had these things since the 1990s, and I always suspected that they were probably skin cancer. So when the doctor looked at them, and he told me, he said, I can't be sure until I get the pathology report back. But he said it does look like skin cancer. And they were really concerned with that one next to my eye. So, you know, because the proximity to the eye could cause a lot of problems. So they scheduled me to go in and have that one removed first, and then I was to go in at a later date and have the other 2 removed. So I went in, I think it was around the end of January 2003, and they operated right here on the eye. And it was about a week after the operation. I was sitting home, and I got this magnified mirror, and I was looking at, you know, where they had done the operation. And of course, it was infected. I was sitting there looking at the area where they had operated, and that's when that report I'd heard on the radio popped back into my head about THC, you know, killing cancer cells. Mm-hmm. And I'd heard that back in the 70s. Well, by that time, I had been taking the oil for about a year, you know, and it helped me in many ways. Like my thinking processes had cleared up. You know, I was pretty well back to normal. But I really didn't think, you know, where I'd been taking the oil for so long, I thought, well, if THC killed cancer, well, why didn't it cure my cancer? Well, you know, why do I still have this? And I hate to say it, but I almost didn't do it. I almost didn't apply the oil. I thought, you know, if the medical system, if there was a cure for cancer, surely the medical system would be using it. That was my assumption at the time. I had the oil right there anyway because I was ingesting it to help me sleep. So I just took a little bit of oil and I put a little bit on bandages, 2 bandages, and I put one on the cheek and one on my chest. I never felt a thing. You know, before that I was getting these sensations like I had splinters in my face. And as soon as I put the oil on, that sensation went away. But there was no feeling that anything was happening. So 4 days later, I left the bandages in place for 4 days. And then I went down to the bathroom, and when I took the bandages off, I was just shocked because it was all healed. It was just pink skin on both places. And of course, then I started telling my friends, you know, like I cured my cancer with marijuana or oil made from the cannabis hemp plant. And people just laughed at me. And, you know, like, you're crazy. After a few weeks of people laughing at me, they turned this one that they had surgically removed, it came right back. And I watched it develop, and that same swelling and the bleeding and the splinter feeling in the face. So I just put a little dab of oil in a bandage, put it on there, left it on for 4 days. When I removed it, it was all healed, just pink skin. Now this is 2012. That was back in 2003 when I did, early 2003 when I did this. I've never retreated these spots. So once I seen this one heal up, then I went down to my doctor's office because they had taken a sample when they done the operation. So I went down to get the pathology report. When I went in, I asked the doctor's, well, it was his wife. She was the receptionist, the doctor's wife. So I asked her for a copy of the report, and I looked at it, and it said right on the report, basal cell carcinoma. That's skin cancer. So I told her that day, I said that, you know, that cancer had returned. And so I explained to her that I had cured that cancer and the other 2 using hemp oil. And the minute I said hemp oil, the woman just went ballistic. I mean, I was in my doctor's waiting room. There was 5 or 6 other patients there. And as soon as I said hemp oil, you could just see her, like she hunched. She went like that. And the doctor will not go there. The doctor will not prescribe this. You know, and she was doing it very loudly. And matter of fact, I for a little while there, I thought the woman was some kind of a nutcase. So I got in my truck that day, and on the way home, it was a really strange feeling trying to figure, you know, what are these people doing? I mean, if I was a doctor and a patient of mine came in and said that they had cured their cancer, I would be interested in it. But this doctor and his wife had no interest in it. So it smelled kind of fishy to me. So I didn't really know what to do at that point. You know, I had no choice. I had to stay on the oil because it's the only medication that worked for me. And right after I visited my doctor's office, I went down and seen my mother, and she had weeping psoriasis on her foot and lower leg. And so we used the oil to heal that. I started supplying oil, you know, like to different people I knew with skin conditions. I started offering the oil to people I knew, and it was working on everything. And then more people, like their friends, would come. So it was building and building all the time. I started a campaign in 2003 to alert the government. I mean, I went to all the political parties. I went to the Cancer Society. We even went to the United Nations. We went everywhere about this. You know, nobody would lift a finger.
How long did it take to plant all that?
Oh, we worked 2 or 3 days. You know, actually longer than that, because I built up some of the beds, you know, raised them up a bit so the plants would grow better. But there was a lot of work went into it, and some of my patients come over and they helped me plant it. So I didn't do it just alone, but it was quite an effort, more like a community effort than anything else.
Right. Wow, that's pretty incredible.
Well, when the patients seen what the medicine would do, they backed it. In 2005, I came in contact with Rick Dwyer over here at the Legion in McCann. I had treated a lady with cancer, and she had told Rick about, you know, how she was cancer-free and what had cured her. So Rick Dwyer wanted to meet me, so when I went over, Rick and I, we had a good talk. And then he went with me, because at that time I was actually treating people in their homes. So when Rick Dwyer seen what the oil was doing himself, and he knew some of the patients also. So when Rick seen it himself, we decided that, you know, that the Legion should do something about this. So Rick got in touch with George Coyne at Maritime Command in Halifax, and he told him about this. As a matter of fact, he contacted them, I believe, 3 times, you know, to do something about this. Because all the membership of the Branch 134 over here in McCann, they were behind this. Even the executive, they had put a letter out in the paper that, you know, we wanted to do an honest and open review of this medicine. And we invited the police, the doctors, the Cumberland Health Authority, all of them, you know, come to the meeting. And I was going to bring patients. But that, of course, that never happened. You have to watch yourself, because some of this is built up here and there from where I was planting.
So how long, it's been almost 2 years, since you've been here?
2009 was the last crop that was, there was only about 150 plants in 2009 in the backyard. Once I put 250 in, but I had to take out the males, so that only left about 150. Right. And before that, like I said, 2006 there was 1,100, 2005 there was 1,600, and then in 2003 I had, I think it was about 135 down by the river. You know, down off my land, but it was down by the river. And that's the year they did the first raid. I never hid anything. I openly stated right in the video that we shot in 2005 that I was going to grow the plants right in my backyard. I made no secret of it, and I told everyone what it was for. It was for medicinal use for whoever needed it. I put 1,620 plants in my backyard in 2005. I sent the RCMP a videotape. I took the videotape in. As a matter of fact, Rick Dwyer came with me and videoed me giving it to the RCMP, because I didn't want them saying that they never received it. And I also gave them some paperwork asking that local politicians be charged with criminal negligence causing death. So 3 months later, on August 3rd, 2005, the police came in and raided me. And I really thought that, you know, the government would take an interest, and within a matter of 6 months I figured this medicine would be becoming available. But instead they did just the opposite. They persecuted me, and it was just horrifying when I realized, you know, what they were all about. Oh, they put on quite a show here, you know. One of them actually stayed here on the deck with me, a female officer stayed here on the deck with me while her fellow officers were down there cutting the cannabis down. And she told me right there on the deck that day, she said, "I believe everything you're saying." And I just looked at her and I said, "You know this cures cancer." I said, "If you know, what are you doing? Where are your morals?" You know, your friends are down there cutting down the cure for cancer, for God's sakes. You know, what's wrong with you people? And then she just clammed up. She wouldn't talk anymore.
How many treatments did you lose? Like, do you figure?
Oh, well, if you just take the numbers alone, I mean, when you look at the 1,620 plants in 2005, another 1,100 plants in 2006, well, you're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of treatments, you know, that people didn't get. And I was giving it away for nothing.
And people were waiting for that? Did you?
Oh, yes, yes. A lot of people were waiting. In 2006, when the RCMP came in again and did the second raid, or third raid, then actually the community was outraged. You know, that's when we decided to call a meeting and invite, you know, the health authority, everyone in, the police, the doctors, all of them. Bring them in. Here's the patients. Now let's have an open conversation about this. But the day that was to take place, the Royal Canadian Legion's Maritime Command, with the aid of the RCMP, they came in and they shut our local Legion branch down. So it just blew my mind. You know, when you look at the Legion's own handbook, it says, you know, they're there to represent the interests of veterans and their families. You know, so they should have done something about this. But instead, they got right in bed with the government and went along with shutting the Legion down and everything. And that's the reason I've stated that, as far as I'm concerned, the Royal Canadian Legion is a total fraud. It should be disbanded. And the same goes for the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, because there's only one word for them, and that's pathetic. I know we need police, but we need policemen that you can respect. I have no respect for these people. Anybody that's out there raiding medicinal users and taking their medicine, how can you respect them?
In McCann, Nova Scotia, this oil is gaining a reputation as a miracle drug.
That's the cure right there.
Oil extracted from marijuana plants. Rick Simpson has been making it and giving it to friends and neighbors. He calls it hemp oil. Others know it as weed oil. In small doses, he says, it makes you well without getting you high.
Well, you can't deny your own eyes, can you? Now, here's somebody dying from cancer, they're not dying anymore. Here's somebody that had something else, well, they're cured. And this is what's doing it.
The McCann branch of the Royal Canadian Legion was impressed too. So impressed, it hosted meetings like this one, aimed at spreading the word about hemp oil. But when they planned a big public meeting, higher-ups at the Legion shut them down.
The provincial command came here the day of the meeting, and they come in, they locked the doors, and then I come into the yard, and I had two RCMP officers here that told me I was not allowed on the property.
They are using the Royal Canadian Legion, its name, its insignias, and the buildings as a platform to promote the use of hemp oil as a medicinal drug.
I don't care if this medicine comes from a tomato plant, a potato plant, or a hemp plant. If the medicine's safe and helps and works, why not use it?
For Rick Dwyer, it's an emotional issue. One of the testaments to hemp oil's healing power is his father, a military veteran suffering from lung cancer.
And this last time I was in, I didn't know it, but they said I was going to die in 24 hours, but I didn't. So I took the oil and everything worked out right.
But the Legion isn't budging. They've suspended the entire executive of this branch, along with any activities planned for the building, until they install a new management team.
There is no provincial or federal regulation which states that this marijuana can be grown and produced into hemp oil for medicinal purposes. And therefore, it's illegal as far as the province is concerned. And the Royal Canadian Legion does not back illegal operations.
Simpson has had trouble with the law. The RCMP confiscated 1,600 marijuana plants from his backyard last year. Plants he claims were grown for medicinal purposes. A court case is unresolved, and so are questions within the Legion about whether hemp oil is medicine or menace.
That goes against the general bylaws of the Royal Canadian Legion.
What I did, I'm proud of what I did. I'm proud of it.
And for now, since the Legion is the town's only meeting place, getting the word out about hemp oil will prove to be more difficult. In McCann, Nova Scotia, this is Global National's Ross Lord reporting.
This was all covered in, and
and war stuff, pictures of our veterans and everything. And in here was his office. We used to, some of us would come down here in this old office and figure out, you know, what we was going to do, fundraisers and stuff. We had a lot of fundraisers here for the community, like for sick people and stuff like that. We would put a lot on for them.
And you said how long you were in the Legion?
It was 20 years. I had my 20-year pin. In 1995 I became president, and I was secretary for a short term and past president for 10 years. I also was bingo chairman at one time, entertainment chairman.
So a pretty accomplished Legionnaire.
Well, yeah, I'm very proud to be one at that time, because we really did a lot here at this Legion to help the community, and we accomplished a lot of things here.
I like what you said there about being the government watchdog, because this is where it was really put to the test, and that's where it failed. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, well, we are the government watchdog. The Royal Canadian Legion is here to protect everything that these soldiers fought and died for and continue to do today. And that's our Charter of Rights and our Constitution, our freedom of speech, and our right to question our government, and to actually call them in and say, hey, you know, what's going on here? Like, you know, we got a problem here. Us Royal Canadian Legion members here want to know why that you people haven't answered Mr. Simpson back. Like, I mean, why does this ever have to come to the Legion? Like, why did this have to come to us? You know, this man had discovered something. There can be no question about that now. We want to know why you fellas haven't checked this out. Something that's important, you know. I mean, people's health, you know. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you'd have to be a complete imbecile to think that that this man, if he's some kind of criminal, or what to try to make him out to be, would be going all over Cumberland County, contacting politicians and contacting medical people and everything across the country. He didn't hide anything, and this is what amazed me at first when he first came to us, and I looked at the amount of people that he had contacted in the country. I thought, wow, you know, these people, not one of them, I mean, he wrote letters, they answered them back, but nobody ever came to check out to see if there was any validity to what he was saying. But when he came here, you know, I was talking to the executive, and I said, you know, this guy's discovered something, I can tell you that, because I talked to a number of his patients, and he's showing me like the Guzman studies and the Virginia studies and all these other studies. And so, I mean, I think basically what they were all thinking at that time is he had a grade 9 education, because I know I thought of that at the time. I said, well, how do you know all this stuff? Like, you know, you're not a doctor. And he said he had cancer, you know, on his here and over here and there. And who am I to say he wasn't telling? He had his pathology reports that said he had basal cell carcinoma. Mr. Cecil Hoyk was the same way, and others. So he come here, told us basically what he was going through, and basically his father was a veteran, and I felt an obligation, and so did the rest of us here at the time. But then you turn around and you say, hey, you know, we have a right to send these people a letter and ask them to come in. Let's check this out. Let's see if there's anything to this. But then events seemed to get out of hand. Like, you know, we was trying to keep this thing, you know, in hand here by corresponding and you know, being as polite as we could. But it come to the point where it started to get frustrating. And so I just kind of said to the executive there, you know, like, come on now, guys, for God's sakes, you know, if this is all true, which it appears to be, you know, how many Canadians are, you know, suffering here with these problems? That this you can, it amazed me. Is like I said to my family doctor, I said, look, I'm no doctor, but I'm not blind. I can see cancer on somebody's face disappearing. You don't have to be a doctor to see that and say, hey, was it this oil that cured that up? And then he put the oil on somebody else's cancer and it would do the same? Well, logically, you gotta start thinking, well, it was either that oil that cured it up or this man's got some kind of godlike powers that heal these people up. You know, and basically I said, no, it's the oil. It's the oil doing this.
It wasn't unusual to see, 4, 5, 6 cars in my yard. That was quite normal for around here. I had a very large clientele.
Yeah.
But it's like I said, it wasn't about the money. I mean, if I had the medicine and if I could grow the plants and produce the medicine, I was giving it away. But the demand got so great, and with the police, taking my crops, the only other thing you could do then was to go out and buy the material needed from local growers. So a lot of the time I acted more like the middleman between the patients and the growers.
Okay.
I was arrested. I was charged with trafficking, possession, and cultivation. But, I had to cultivate the medicine or the plants to make the medicine, and to give it to people, I had to possess the medicine. And as for trafficking, well, if you look at the dictionary definition of trafficking, it says the exchange of goods for monetary gain. I didn't gain anything. So it really wasn't trafficking. I mean, I was giving the medicine away. But of course, the legal system, they have a different definition for trafficking. So this all went on. I mean, I started then down the road through the court, through the legal system in Canada. And that's a horrifying experience, believe me. The first time I went to court was in the fall of 2005, and it was suggested then that I mount a charter challenge. And the judge told me to put out affidavits and to get as many affidavits as I could into the court system by March of 2006. So I went out, I put out 120 affidavits. I could only collect 48 affidavits out of 120. And that's really when I more or less started figuring out what the human race was about, because I went to people that I had cured with cancer, and they simply said they didn't want to get involved. It was nice that the medicine had healed them, but they weren't concerned with other people's problems. So that's half of what's wrong with the human race, this self-centered way of thinking. The judge had told me that I would have a decision in April of 2006. Well, then when I called my lawyer up, who was representing me during the charter challenge, he said that the Crown hadn't had time to get their case put together. Like, they'd had 6 months, but the Crown didn't have time. So they had to put this off until a later date, is what I was told. And then about 2 weeks later, around the end of April or early May 2006, my lawyer called and he told me that the Crown wanted to offer me a deal. He said if I was willing to drop the charter challenge and go back into the regular court system and plead guilty to cultivation, that they would guarantee me an absolute discharge, which means that I could have walked away. But I told the lawyer, I said, I said, you people want this to continue. You're all making a fortune off these marijuana cases, and you don't want the money to go away. So it's just a charade. And the way I looked at it, well, these lawyers, that are doing this, they're a pack of criminals. Plain and simple. People are dying and suffering, and these people are, well, the lawyers and the doctors and the politicians, that's the reason why.
So I found the whole thing very disturbing, and I told the lawyer, I said, I'll have nothing to do with these criminals, and I won't accept any offer or any deal that they're proposing. Just before my charter challenge, there was a federal election called in Canada. So I ran as an independent in that election on this issue. Of course, they didn't let me speak in a lot of places, and believe me, independents are not used fairly. They always say these things like, if you don't vote for a party, you're wasting your vote, and that's a bald-faced lie. If you're voting for a party, you are wasting your vote, because these representatives of these parties are going to toe the party line. The only people that are going to represent you are independent people. That's who we should be electing. We went through the whole thing anyway as best we could, and of course that didn't do much good. I think I got 524 votes, but better than nothing. And then my charter challenge came up just before Christmas in 2006. We went to the court. The judge, he had 48 sworn affidavits. All he said, he looked them over, he said they were anecdotal. And I don't see anything anecdotal about the use of this medicine. It's been around for 5,000 years, but that's what the judge called it. And he said that I presented no life-threatening conditions. Well, apparently this judge doesn't know that there's a good number of people die from skin cancer every year or every day in Canada. And on top of that, this condition I have, this post-concussion syndrome, it can badly affect your blood pressure. And what happens with a lot of people that have the same condition I have, they wind up committing suicide, because it's very hard to live with this constant, it's like a tuning fork gone mad in your head. But with the oil, I can still get my sleep, and I can deal with it as long as I have my medication. So the oil has done nothing but good for me. But anyway, going through that, the whole charter challenge affair, that didn't really get me anywhere. So I decided then that I should take it into the Supreme Court of Nova Scotia. They told me I could appeal the charter challenge, but I said to them that day in court, I said, what's the point? He said, I already know you people are standing against this. So I'm not willing to go through this dance anymore. I want to see this held. I want this as a court case, and I want a jury to hear it. And I requested at the time that I have that another judge be appointed, because I didn't trust the one I had. But of course, when the Supreme Court case came up, it was the same judge and the same prosecutors that I had during the charter challenge. But I thought, when the Supreme Court case came up, I had 10 patients ready to testify. Some of them had been cured with terminal cancers. I had 6 doctors ready to testify. I had a box full of scientific evidence, like all these reports and studies that had been done. And, I thought that I didn't think I would have any trouble introducing this evidence. But when they started, of course, the Crown, they proceed first, with their prosecution. And at first there was, I think it was 6 Mounties they put on the stand. And, of course, they all told the world about their brave exploits in my backyard, which was a bunch of nonsense. But on the cross-examination, when I cross-examined them, I would hold up the Spring Hill record from 2004, a year before I was ever charged. I'd had a full-page article done by the Spring Hill Record detailing all my activities. So I wasn't hiding anything. So I asked each officer as they were on the stand, I said, would a criminal go in and have a full-page article done about his activities? Well, of course, they all had to admit in front of the jury that, no, a criminal wouldn't do this. It didn't even make sense. And then I asked them about the evidence that I had supplied in May of 2005. And all the officers, they all said the same thing. We know about this evidence, but we've never seen it. And I said, well, is it common practice for the RCMP not to look at evidence? And, of course, the RCMP, the officers, they just sat there with a stupid look on their face. And the judge never forced them to answer, which he should have done that. He should have forced them to comply. But they didn't. And then they put their marijuana expert on the stand. And that guy didn't know anything about marijuana or cannabis or any of it. He was just totally misinformed about everything. Basically, I made a fool out of him on the stand. He didn't know his topic, and I did. But right after that was done, well, then that was the end of the prosecution's case, or supposed to be. So then I was to present my case. So then the judge asked me, he said, well, how do you intend to proceed? And I told him, I said, I want to put the patients on the stand first, and then I want to put their doctors on the stand. And that way the doctors can't lie. And so the judge looked at me and he said, well, this has nothing to do with your case. It has no bearing on your case. And I said, what do you mean it has no bearing? These are the people that I healed with this oil. It has every bearing on my case. But nope, as far as they're concerned, no bearing. And I mean, I was getting in a bad mood and the judge seen it. So I think just to avoid a big argument that day, he said, let me think it over overnight and we'll talk about it in the morning. So the next day I go back to court and he said, I spent hours last night thinking about this, but there is no possible way that I can allow the testimony from the patients and the doctors. So, well, there's nothing much I could do about it. They wouldn't allow them to testify. So then I turned around and I said, well, okay, I've got the scientific evidence. So I tried to introduce that. And then they turned around and they said, you cannot introduce scientific evidence unless you had the person that actually put the studies out present in the courtroom. So I couldn't even use that. So in the end, the only thing I could do was really to testify on my own behalf, which I did. And I was on the stand for probably about 2 hours. And I explained the whole thing out to the jury, exactly what's been going on here. And actually, there was even people on that jury. I had treated relatives of people on that jury for nothing and cured them. So, I mean, we all thought that we had won the case. The prosecution wasn't presenting anything, that was damning. So they turned around and after I was done on the stand, then all of a sudden the prosecution stands up and they said, we need some testimony from the Marijuana Access Program. Well, I'd gone through all of this nonsense before. During the Charter Challenge, they had people there from the Access Program. And I knew this didn't make sense. Why would they need these people in there? But, so that put the case off over the weekend, and it was the following Monday before this person from Ontario could come down and appear in court. And of course, it really had no bearing on my case. I couldn't understand why they did it. To me, it was like some kind of stalling tactic, but I couldn't figure out what was taking place. So after they had testified, then we made our closing arguments, and then the jury left the courtroom. 3 hours later, we were called back to court. They said that the jury had reached a verdict. So when I went into the court, the prosecutor from the Justice Department, Monica McQueen, she was there, and the judge and everyone. But Doug Shatford, the Crown Prosecutor, he wasn't present. So I was sitting there in the courtroom looking around, trying to figure out what's going on here. And then finally Shatford came in and he sat down, and a couple minutes later the jury came in. And so I stood to receive the verdict, and I was just shocked, guilty, guilty, guilty. And I was like, guilty of what? Healing? This is insane. And but it was a very strange experience. That day when the jury left the courthouse that day, their heads were all, their chins were almost on the ground. And I looked right at the judge that day, and I told him point blank, I said, look, you might as well lock me up right now, because I said, if you don't, I'm just going to continue supplying that medicine until I'm sentenced. But the judge never said nothing. So we left the building, and of course I continued on treating people as the best I could, the best way I could. After the case, like I'd been found guilty and everything, I was just totally disgusted. But the very next day, Rick Dwyer called me and he told me that his wife had seen Doug Shatford exiting the jury room just 2 or 3 minutes before the jury came in. So Rick and Margaret come over at the house, and I told Margaret, I said, jury tampering is a very serious charge. So I asked her, I said, go back to the courthouse, right back to the same seat you were sitting in, and look down that hallway from right where you were, and tell me what you could see. So they went back to the courthouse, and they came back later that day, and she said, from where I was sitting, Rick, when you look down the hallway, there's only one door visible, and that door is the jury room door. And that's the door that she told me that she seen Doug Shatford come out of. So it was pretty cut and dried. And so we contacted the judge and told him what had taken place. And about 2 weeks later, we thought, I thought that they called us up and they wanted us to come to the courthouse. And I thought it was just a meeting. I didn't know what was going on. But when we went into the courtroom, Cashionne was sitting on the bench, and the Crown Prosecutor and the prosecutor from the Justice Department were both there, and they had a lawyer from Halifax representing them. And when we walked in, the judge looked right at Mrs. Dwyer, Margaret Dwyer, and he said, "I hope you realize, Mrs. Dwyer, that if we find anything you're saying here today to be untrue, you could be facing 14 years in jail for perjury." They threatened her right there before she even got on the stand. And Margaret just looked at him and she said, "Look," she said, "I'm here to tell the truth. That's all I'm here to do." She got on the stand, and then the lawyer, he tried to come after her. They couldn't disprove a thing that Margaret said. And, well, after about 15, 20 minutes of questioning, they finally realized her story, there was no holes in it. You know, I mean, this woman was telling the truth, whether they liked it or not. So, anyway, she was dismissed, and then they asked me who I'd like to call. So I called Doug Shatford. So I put Shatford on the stand, and some local growers and dealers around this area had told me, or two of them had told me, that they had sold hemp to Doug Shatford. So I asked Doug Shatford, I said, do you use hemp, Mr. Shatford? And his face got all red, and he started to stammer, and then the judge jumped right in. He said, "That line of questioning will not be tolerated." And I looked at him and I said, "Well, you know, their lawyer asked Margaret about her use of hemp. Why can't I ask him?" See, the whole thing was stacked in the Crown prosecutor's favor, of course. At the end of it, the judge simply stated, he said, "I think this is something that you and Mrs. Dwyer cooked up to derail your sentencing." And believe me, at that point in time, I was...
said that? The judge?
Yeah.
Sorry. That just kind of threw me. Wow.
I think farming is the most, most honorable profession there is on this planet. And I don't look at the cannabis hemp plant as being anything other than just a crop. You know, it produces medicine, energy, food. It's a wonderful plant. And, you know, I think we really have to be insane to deny the use of this substance any longer. You know, the world needs it, and people are dying for no reason and suffering. And this can all be prevented. You know, and it's a medicine that we can produce for practically nothing. If there was no laws against this, I could produce a full cancer treatment for $100. You know, full 60-gram treatment. There's nothing to this. You know, I encourage people to grow their own and produce their own medicine, you know, until we have something. Well, I think everybody should be allowed to do that forever anyway. But, you know, for those who can't grow it themselves or live in cities, well, then people like myself could supply the medicine at a very reasonable cost or on a donation basis. And I would like to see some mechanism set up with governments so people that didn't have any money could still receive the treatment.
Right.
You know, that's the way it should be. When my sentencing come up, on I guess it was February 8th, well, about 2 weeks before my sentencing, we had started working on the documentary Run from the Cure. I honestly think that Run from the Cure prevented me from going to jail because it made the system very uncomfortable, you know, and now the knowledge was out there on the internet and everything. So the day of my sentencing, I went to the Amherst courthouse, and the lawyer that had represented me during the charter challenge, he came right out and told me, he said, "Rick," he said, "I'm a lawyer," and he said, "I can't even explain what these people are doing anymore." He said, "You beat them in court, you beat them." But he said, the corruption here, he said, I said, "I can't even explain what they're doing anymore." And he was talking to the reporter from the Chronicle Herald. Tom McCogue was there too. And he told Tom McCogue right there, he said, "Rick's oil is medicine. You don't find it on the street for sale." And Tom McCogue agreed. And then the lawyer started telling me about my oil being tested. And I didn't have any idea that the oil had even been looked at by the RCMP. But apparently they had sent a sample out to their lab out west. And when the results come back, it proved to be the purest and strongest oil the RCMP had ever tested. But, so that was all well and good.
And, like, how did you do all the processing? How did that all happen? Like, the processing and making it into oil and all?
Well, that was kind of, in the beginning, I actually went out and I built a still. I had a stainless steel still built, and I used to use that, you know, to do the extractions. But then in 2005, when they came, they took my still. So that left me with nothing, no way to really manufacture the medicine properly. So I went to Canadian Tire a couple days later, and I was looking around through the appliance section, and I seen the rice cookers. So I picked them up, and I read the instructions, and it said that, you know, like once the rice gets so hot, the rice cooker will automatically kick itself onto low heat. Well, this is what I needed, because if it goes too hot, you'll ruin the oil. So I bought a rice cooker and brought it home, and sure enough, it worked like a charm. And, you know, in a way, it was a good thing because it gave me a simple way to tell people, this is how you can heal yourself. If you've got a rice cooker, and you've got a good pound of cannabis bud, and a little bit of solvent, you can make your own medicine. You know, and that's the way, what's wrong with that? The lawyer that was hired to represent me during the sentencing, he called me into a side room there, and he came right out and said, the real truth of the matter is, Rick, he said, the government wants the researchers to bring this out. And when he said this, I just looked at him and I said, look, I said, we've been waiting over 100 years for the researchers to bring this out. They've known about this for decades. They've never done a thing. You know, so I said, don't give me that line. You know, I mean, the researchers aren't going to do anything. And that kind of put the lawyer off a bit. And then I looked at the lawyer and I said, tell me something, Duncan. I said, if one of yours had cancer, what would you be looking for? Down went the head. Couldn't look me in the face. So, and that day in the court, it was kind of strange because it was the first time I ever seen metal detectors and everything in the Amherst courthouse. I think these lawyers and the judge and all that, I think they were in fear of their lives. There was about 35, 40 people showed up for my sentencing that day. We all went through the metal detectors. And, you know, there was no question that these people were supporting me. So I got up before the judge finally at the sentencing, and he admitted right there, he said, under different circumstances, he said, Mr. Simpson would be getting awards. But this is a court of law. You know, no awards given here. But the judge admitted openly, he said, in my 34 years in the legal system, he said, I've never seen a case like this. There was no criminal intent. Well, if there was no criminal intent, what was I doing in their courtroom? I mean, I should have never been there. And then, although he had never heard any testimony from any of the patients, he'd never heard any of the testimony, you know, that from the scientific evidence that I had, he'd never seen any of that. But then he came right out and stated that, you know, the scientific evidence does exist to back up everything I'm saying, and he also stated that Mr. Simpson has many patients that also back his position. And, you know, they as much admitted it, you know, we do have a medicine here that works. But the whole thing just went on like it meant nothing. This tree here, during the daytime, it was quite a big tree, and it was shading out so many of the plants. So I had to cut this tree down. But as you can see, it's quite a big area here. You know, I don't know what it is in square footage exactly, but it's a good size. And it's a wonderful place because you're right here. You know, this is a southern-facing slope, so you're getting the sun all day long.
Yeah.
It's a great spot for growing. Well, I was facing 12 years in jail. And it's really left to the judge's own discretion what sentence is handed down. So what they did, he gave me a $2,000 fine and a gun restriction. The gun restriction comes because of if you're charged with trafficking, automatically you get a 10-year gun restriction. Well, I had been charged with trafficking twice, so I wound up with a lifetime restriction. Although they never found a gun in any of the raids they did on my home, they never found a gun. So we left the court that day, and of course I come home, and I was very disturbed with Canada. I was just totally disgusted. I was ready to leave Canada, you know, and that's really what I wanted to do. But the very next morning, there's people banging on my door. So I just continued on, and then a couple weeks after my sentencing, I had to go back for this other charge about the tube I'd given this other girl, and of course that was another trafficking charge. And so that gave me the lifetime suspension for firearms. What they did, I spent 4 days in jail, like over the weekend. So they just said time served, and that was it. I was free to go. I mean, what I seen in the legal system, when I watched the way they handled my case, it just bewildered me. I said, how could, you know, you're standing there, you know, there's people right here in this building that have been cured with terminal cancer. And if you had cancer yourself, you'd be begging me for this oil, but yet you will deny the use of this medicine to the public. What right do you have to do that? And if you're doing this type of thing, which is exactly what I've seen in this court system, then they're nothing but a pack of criminals. They should all be locked up for what they did.
So you're getting some pretty massive plants, or?
Oh, some of these plants were huge. Unfortunately, you know, due to the police, I didn't really get to harvest them, you know, at full growth.
What were they up to?
Well, in August 3rd in 2005, when they did the raid, the plants were all my height. They were a bit taller. And then in 2006, when they came, I think it was September 11th. And the plants, I had blueberry and white widow. I had 8 different strains here. But that year, they weren't that high. They were only about my height, but they were wider than they were high. You know, the branches really filled in. and the buds were just glistening. I was looking, you know, around different parts of the world that I could go, you know, and make this happen. So I'd looked into South America and many different places, and then one day in the spring, I guess, of 2008, I was sitting there talking to my son about going to South America, and he started laughing, and I looked at him and I said, "Well, what's so funny?" And he said, "Dad," he said, "you're not going to leave." He said, "You're going to stay here and fight them." He said, "I know you." And of course, I kind of looked at him strange, and then I started laughing, and I realized he was probably right. So, you know, I more or less, it brought me back to normal, you know, after he made that statement. All during 2008, the police never bothered me. And then in 2009, in the spring of 2009, I had come in contact with the Free Man on the Land movement. And in June, late June, they contacted me, and they said that, you know, when my paperwork went in for Free Man on the Land, that's supposed to put me under common law again. And under common law, growing hemp is not a crime. So they said, plant.
Yeah.
You know, if you grow them vegetative inside till they're about 4 or 5 feet tall, and then take them out around the end of May, acclimatize them, take them out and then plant them right up to their little necks, well, then all those limbs turn into roots. And you can get plants that are 2 or 3 pounds.
Well, mosquitoes are eating me alive. How about you?
Well, yeah.
We're going to wander up to the house.
They've had me for lunch many times, so. It just kept going. I mean, I did a radio show right about that time, the Tom Young show. And Tom asked me when I was doing the show, he said, "Are you growing any hemp this year?" And I said, "Yes, I'm growing it right in my backyard." I never hid the fact, you know, what I was doing. Tom Young's show is very popular in Canada. So practically everybody knew that I was growing hemp. You know, there was nothing hidden. It sat there all summer. The plants grew. Nobody came near. And we seen the helicopters in September. We seen the helicopters flying, you know, off in the distance all around this property, but they never come over. And the plants were right there, so they couldn't have missed them. So I figured finally, you know, maybe the government has grown up enough that they're going to leave this alone. Well, during the summer of 2009, I was contacted by Jindřich Bár in the Czech Republic, and they were taking a big interest in this. And they asked if I would be willing to come to the Czech Republic and do a speaking tour. By that time, I had come in contact with Jack Hare. So I got in touch with Jack, and I asked Jack, I said, "Would you like to come on the tour too?" Because Jack was actually, I think Jack is better known in Europe than he is over here. So Jack agreed, and then Jindřich Bár told me that Dr. Lemire Hanoush, another top researcher in this field, he was going to do these seminars along with Jack and I. So it really sounded good. But then just about 2 weeks before the tour was to take place, I was to leave on the 7th of October. So around the 24th or 25th of September, I got a call that Jack Hare had collapsed with a heart attack. And then Steve Hagar contacted me a couple days later, and what he told me, he said just a couple days, he said, before Jack collapsed, he was talking to Jack. And he said it's eerie, Rick, but he said it's almost like Jack knew something was going to happen. Because he told Steve Hagar that day, he said, "If anything happens to me," he said, "pass the torch to Rick Simpson."
The thing to remember is we're all spiritual beings, but nobody had that connection stronger than Jack. He's the greatest rabbi we have. And right before my last conversation with Jack, before he had his second stroke, he called me up and he asked me to do a story on Rick Simpson. And I really felt Jack wants the torch passed to Rick Simpson. This is what he wants. More than legal. He wants the cancer patients to get the oil.
Amen.
So we used to use this old flat-bottom boat. It was a great rig. We used to just float up. See, this is a tidal river. The tide runs up the river here about a half a mile further than or beyond the house. So we just get in this, put the plants in it, and float up the river and unload them and plant them, and then float back down with the tide usually.
Yes, sir. This is pretty much the ideal place, eh?
Well, it's good for growing, yes. You know, if you want to grow quietly. But, of course, I didn't do it quietly. We did the Czech tour. The Czech tour was a great success. We drew a lot of attention, and a lot of people, you know, became educated. then Steve had told me that they wanted me to come to the Cannabis Cup, and they wanted me to put on a seminar there, and they were going to crown me Freedom Fighter of the Year. So I just got back at the end of October 2009 from the Czech Republic, and then I only had 3 weeks home, and then on the 20th of November I had to fly out again to Amsterdam to the Cup. So the police hadn't bothered me, and so I thought everything was okay. And I thought, you know, by the time I came back from Amsterdam, I thought there'd be some doors opening.
This is what you see in Amsterdam with people on the roads, the traffic, the cars, the bikes, the scooters. They're just unbelievable.
This is Canada.
People in these countries can actually drive very well. Beautiful country. Beautiful downtown Amsterdam. Look at the people. Yeah, up and down, not knowing where we were. I still don't. Now we'll figure it out as we go. Where we were staying, or where we had been staying, beautiful canal, and there's usually swans and whatnot. There's Baron Romsey's van over there, and it's just like, this is the greenhouse seeds. I'll bring it around here. See, this is the greenhouse seeds right here. This is their cafe, and this right here, this doorway, this is where I've been staying.
We want to thank Don and Aaron from Teenage Genetics. A lovely strain, just like a lot of other ones that they provide for us.
Around the same year that I was inspired to create the Cannabis Cup, I created a group of hemp activists called the Freedom Fighters because I'd met Jack Herrera and read a manuscript called The Emperor Wears No Clothes before it was published. Jack was one of the most inspiring people I ever met, and I was convinced that once the American people knew the truth about the economic benefits of this plant, that it would soon be legal. I don't know if you realize this, but just recently Jack suffered his second heart attack and was in a coma for about 2 weeks. And right before Jack had his heart attack, he called me on the phone. And he said that I needed to go do a story about Rick Simpson. Now, I had heard about this guy in Canada who said he was curing cancer with hash oil. But I didn't believe the story. But Jack called me, he said to me, Steve, the human evidence is out there. Marijuana fights cancer. And what Rick Simpson has done that is so important is that he's shown us that to get the full medicinal impact of this plant, you cannot smoke it. You must eat a lot of cannabinoids. And the easiest way to do that is to make oil and eat the oil. If you are seriously ill, you need to eat about 1 gram a day for 60 days. But when you're done, 70% of the cancer patients are cancer-free. Rick started giving away oil for free, growing it in his backyard. Hundreds of patients he treated for free. So the Canadian government arrested Rick Simpson, convicted him of being a drug dealer, and while he's at the Cannabis Cup now, just now, they have raided his property for the 3rd time and are prepared to arrest Rick again when he returns to Canada. It is unconscionable to treat a saint in this manner. Rick Simpson is the Freedom Fighter of the Year. Rick. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And look, it's a pleasure to be here at the Cup. I've met so many wonderful people, the seed companies, you know, DNA Seeds, TH Seeds, and all the rest of the guys, and Orion from Greenhouse. He brought me here. And I'll tell you right now, you haven't lived unless you've been on the back of a scooter with Orion at the wheel. That's a dangerous experience. But it was thrilling. The whole trip has been thrilling, and you know, what a great event. But unfortunately, the way it stands right now, you see, 2 years ago, in November 30th, on my 58th birthday, they arrested me and they put me in jail for 4 days without my medicine. And if I go that length of time, I mean, if you had seen me at the end of the 4 days, of course the jail is a torture house. It's so hot you can't sleep. My blood pressure was all out of whack. I mean, I looked in pretty bad shape after 4 days. So if I go back to Canada, the first thing, I've had 3 charges since 2005. So if I go back, I'll be arrested, or I'll be charged, put in jail, and probably denied bail. And that's about all it'll take, because it takes months for, you know, to get into the court system. So, I mean, that would kill me. So the only thing I can do is become an exile and seek political refuge in Europe, and that's what I plan to do. I can give them hell from here just as easy as I can from over there. But the problem here is, folks, there's people back in Canada that are, you know, they're depending on me to save their lives and give them advice. And I can no longer do that now. But if anyone out there has cancer or a serious illness, go to our website, phoenixtears.ca, and read, look into the recipe. Make the medicine for your loved ones. It can save their life. It can change people's lives. So for God's sakes, make it. And if anybody out there has a couple bucks to send our way, Phoenix Tears, we sure appreciate it, because I don't know what the rest of Europe is like, but Amsterdam is quite expensive, but a wonderful city. Thank you very much, folks.
I was in Amsterdam, I think it was the 5 or 6 days when I got word that the RCMP had come in here and raided my property again.
Hello, my name is Mike Simpson, Rick Simpson's oldest son. On November 25th, 2009, approximately 10:30, I showed up to check on my father's property to find 3 unmarked police vehicles at the end of my father's driveway, an RCMP 4-wheel drive in the middle of my father's driveway. I pulled in the end of the driveway and walked towards the house. I got about halfway towards the house when I was surrounded by 9 police officers with their hands on their guns. I then asked them what the hell they were doing there. They said they were there to serve a warrant for cultivation of cannabis. I then told them they were standing on a 1,500-acre land grant, that my father's property is a country within a country, and that they had no right to be on that property. They then said that a judge had signed the warrant and they could do as they pleased. I told them I was the caretaker of the property and I wanted to see the warrant. They would not show it to me. I then asked each and every one of them for their business cards. They would not give me their business cards, which by their law they are required to do so. They then ran me off my family's land, and I was forced to watch them ransack my father's house from the end of his driveway. I watched them carry things out of his house that they had left from other raids on his property. After they were done ransacking my family's property, as they backed a trailer load of plastic junk and a fluorescent light shade out of the driveway, Officer Timmy Hunter came over to me, and I told him, in the past they had taken 2,800 marijuana plants off my father's property. He ended up with a $2,000 fine. I then asked Timmy Hunter what they thought they were going to accomplish with a trailer load of junk plastic that they had left the last time they had raided. He just stood there with a dumb look on his face, then asked me how I liked my Volkswagen car. As soon as they had left the property, I went into my dad's house to see how much damage was done. I was sickened by the damage. Before my father left for his trip, I installed a video surveillance system, which was clearly posted on every door and every window of the house. The police stole 3 cameras that were in plain sight for everyone to see. They did not have a warrant for surveillance gear that was legally posted, but they stole it anyway, in an attempt to cover their tracks, in my opinion. They tore the house apart looking for the recorder, but failed, because it wasn't in the house. The things they took didn't make any sense to me. They took a bag of noodles that my father had brought back from his last trip to Europe. They were hemp noodles, with a hemp leaf on the package. So right now, those noodles are in Alberta, being tested for THC, It's only going to cost the taxpayers $20,000 for the RCMP to find out they took a bag of noodles. The fact that they worked so hard to try to find anything to charge my dad with tells me the raid was nothing but a witch hunt, and that they would stop at no lengths to try and find something to charge my father with. It's been 2 weeks since the raid on my father's property, and still not one of the 5 stations involved will own up to what they did. So I had no choice but to upload some footage to prove that they were there. Let's see them try and say they weren't there now. People are told we live in a free country. When it's a crime to cure cancer, just what kind of country are we living in?
My son came down the day they were, well, it shocked him when he came down because the yard was, all these cars were parked out on the street and partway in my driveway. And Mike asked him, he said, what's going on here? Well, you know, we're doing a raid. Well, Mike said, where's your search warrant? They wouldn't provide him with a search warrant. So the whole thing was really a fix, you know, right from the get-go. But I knew when I got word from Mike what was taking place, I knew there was nothing here. You know, I wouldn't. There was all this talk about the police had found 70 pounds of cannabis in my house, restricted weapons and booby traps and all this nonsense. Well, the only thing that was in the house was a pellet gun. Their booby traps. There was a couple garbage bags right here on the deck. And the day when my son took me to the airport, when he got back, it was too late to take it to the landfill. So he put a couple boards and he drove nails in them to keep the bears out of the garbage. So when the RCMP raided, this is what they said. You know, this was a booby trap, and the RCMP were in fear of their lives. And of course, like I said, they said my pellet gun was a restricted weapon, and my son had brought his crossbow down, and he left it here. He was doing some target shooting down here, and he left it here. And of course, they said that was another restricted weapon. And then they said about the 70 pounds of cannabis. And really, the 70 pounds of cannabis they found came right from that backyard, because this is where when I'm done doing the washes, well, the plant material is no more good. The resin, you know, I've taken the medicine off it, so I just throw the plant material out there in the hillside. Well, there's hundreds of pounds, you know, of cannabis out there in that hillside, but it's really just compost. So apparently, what they did, they shoveled up about 70 pounds of compost and lugged it out of here in bags, and that was their evidence. Yeah, that's the door they kicked in. I just put that door on just about a month before I left.
You were here at least, well, you were here both raids, weren't you?
I was here for 3 raids. The raid of 2003, 2005, 2006. This one I'd been in Amsterdam for a week before they even did it. But, you know, like the whole thing was staged. It was just a frame job. That's what it was. The Canadian government were trying to keep me out of Canada because I was getting so much support here, they wanted me gone. So they got their wish.
So I guess you became Canada's most unwanted.
More or less, yeah.
This is the cure for cancer and a whole lot of other diseases.
His neighbor, Mark Allen, is just one of his many supporters from around the world. They say the oil floods the body with THC, the active ingredient in marijuana. The medicine has been grabbing headlines in cannabis magazines and is being called a cure-all.
Arthritis, bone cancer, melanoma, lung cancer, MS, diabetes, warts, moles, aneurysms.
He's not a drug dealer. And I know in this country here he has been made out to be one. He's really not. He just discovered something.
Simpson's supporters point to European medical studies as proof the hemp oil works. But it's still illegal to produce and distribute in Canada. And users are daring the medical community to prove them wrong.
What I'm telling the public is the truth. If it wasn't, somebody would come along and defrock me, wouldn't they? There's some doctor would stand up and prove that I'm a fraud.
You could go and see all the people that have been treated with this medicine. You could watch people treating themselves, and you can see it.
Allen says Simpson has never sold him the oil, but gives it away for medicinal purposes. He says Simpson has helped about 2,500 people around the world.
All he ever asked is somebody to come and take a look at this medicine. And he has prolonged people's lives. I've watched it. And my brothers, they know, they watched my father come off his deathbed.
RCMP won't confirm that they raided Simpson's property last week, only that about 70 pounds of pot was seized from a property. And Simpson says that's his home.
It's a very comfortable little house, nice and warm. I can't say nothing bad about it. It's kind of out of the way, you know, way out here in the bushes, but if you want to grow a little hemp, then I guess this is the best place to do it. And you can see the damage they did here to the door, just, you know. The RCMP are just like kids. You know, let's take something and bash the door in. No reason for what they do.
No.
I thought it would be best just to stay in Europe and fight them from over there, because I knew I needed more time for people to become aware of the truth, you know, and what this medicine can do. I needed time to write the book on this subject, to bring that truth out. I was lucky because I had made contacts, you know, in Europe when I went on the Czech tour. So I had a place to stay and things like that, which made things much easier. And then I just continued doing seminars in Europe, and, you know, I had to travel from country to country because I didn't have enough money to establish myself. You know, you can only stay like 3 months in the EU. So I would have to go to Croatia or the Ukraine or these different countries I had to go to for a while, and then I could get back into the EU. And believe me, that made it very hard for writing or anything else, because you're sleeping in strange beds and traveling from country to country, and that's really not great it's not a great situation when you're trying to write a book. But finally, we did get it accomplished anyway. My name is Rick Simpson. We have the ebook version of the manuscript I've just written out now. It's called Phoenix Tears, the Rick Simpson story, and it's available up on our website at phoenixtears.ca. The reviews we've had back so far on the book have been good. Everybody seems to have enjoyed it, although just reading it can be kind of an eye-opening experience because there's so much evil in our world, and this book literally exposes all of it. So I'm quite happy with the way it's turned out, and I hope everyone will enjoy reading it. Plus, you'll also be helping humanity move this medicine forward, because we need it so badly right now. People all over the world now are waking up to what this is all about, and they're also waking up to the fact that the pharmaceutical companies have been supplying are just basically poisons. You know, radiation, chemotherapy, you know, these are not treatments. To me, I can't even imagine anyone saying that they even have a medical system. If you don't use cannabis in medicine, you do not have a medical system. It's that simple. But anyway, the book explains the whole story. It's kind of ugly, but it's the truth from one cover to the other. And I would hope that some people will buy the book, so it would help support my efforts in the future, because I would like to get a big breeding program underway, maybe in South America. And the faster I can do this, the faster we can perfect this medicine. But the medicine is coming. We are winning. There's no question. This is coming out worldwide. And very soon we will have access to this wonderful medication. And I want everyone to have the right to grow their own medicine and produce it themselves if they so wish. If not, then get someone like me to produce the medicine. But we have to get some standards in place here. You know, there's no quality control at present, and it's badly needed. So once we get the standards in place and we start growing the most medicinal strains, the people will have easy access to their medicine. So any help you could be by buying my ebook at present, it's available on our website at phoenixtears.ca, and it's $10 for the ebook. But these funds will be used to help move this agenda forward so we can start healing the people. But in the meantime, don't despair, because help is on the way. And beyond that, all I can say is I wish you all the very best. So at that point, I hadn't been back in Canada for almost 3 years. And, my mother's 80 years old. I hadn't seen her in 3 years, and my family and things. So I thought that this would be a good time to come back, and if the government wants to come at me, let them come ahead. Because, you go to the drugstores, what they give you is just trash. In most cases it doesn't help, in many cases it makes you worse. But this oil really does heal. And it's natural, it's non-addictive, totally harmless, it's safe for people of all ages. If hemp actually presented a danger or a harm, that would be different. But this plant doesn't present a danger. The only danger this plant presents is to the big money, because all these big money interests, it's going to cost them a fortune when this plant is used properly. And they don't want that. But the human race, we don't have any choice. We need this medicine, and we need this plant, and we need it now. If we want to save this planet, there's no other route to take.
Summer's here again. I lay down on the ground. I crack a beer, roll a joint like I've done before. Oh, how I wish I could pack my bags and head on down the road. But I know I've got to stay and say hello to the world. Well, it ain't getting easier as the warm breeze blows at night.
Well, actually, it was Rick Simpson was one who first taught me to make oil.
Is that right?
Yeah. He was a few years ago.
What we're going to do is add a little more water to her. Going to add a bit of water. Now, no, it's not hot enough to burn, but I find it uncomfortable. And what you're actually seeing in there is water boiling. Okay? Now, knowing that water is bubbling, it has to be 100 degrees Celsius for water to boil. And obviously, water is boiling.
So did you help Rick make the oil?
Well, if someone had cancer or if I heard about it, what I used to do is basically like the friend did for you. Your father there, provide for someone, right? Like I say, most of them I never met. I was just growing the weeds. If someone had cancer, well, I'd give it to the contact and give them Rick's number and address. Just go to Rick.
Yes. Well, like I added more water than what Rick normally does, as you can see.
So the idea is to...
The idea is it doesn't get over 100 degrees Celsius.
News, like word of mouth news, like just something people talk about in the kitchen, or was it news? Like
No, what it was, I was at a friend's place. Now this is another friend that smokes pot. And all of a sudden, you know, basically Rick Simpson dropped by. Knew the guy. He was talking about this hemp oil. At the time I thought, well, geez, you know, at first, how do you believe something like this? And I'm looking at him, he's not a long-haired hippie like me. Not one of the freaks in the back of the bus, he's the average working man that stumbled onto something. And I got thinking, well, geez, that's going to hit the news. If he, you know, this guy's for real and legit, this is going to hit the news. Well, it didn't hit the news, all right? But the thing is, I'm still bumping into other people that are telling me, well, geez, this stuff works.
It's going to go from your rice cooker. You throw it in your little tin cup.
But you start hearing more and more. I used to have people coming to the door and they'd be telling me, my brother's got this type of cancer, my mother's got this, or whatever, right? So, geez, I'd get, you know, I'd provide it, and I just want to, I'd basically, tell me the results. Well, geez, it was never a failure. And then you'd, well, geez, this is going to hit the news, right? Because all of a sudden, you know, you're watching people cut, you know, you're hearing people, they got lung cancer, stomach cancer, whatever, right? To me, cancer's cancer. Now, to me, though, and the thing is, like I say, you're watching people and reading about people. Look at the obituaries. How many people there are dead over cancer? Now, geez, most of them can be cured in something like 3 months or less. Well, I've seen some cancers cured in as little as 4 days. Look how thick it is.
Is that okay?
But how much closer could...
Why is it important for you to save other people's lives? Do people matter to you that way?
I think everybody deserves a chance.
Chance at what?
To live their life to their full potential. To do what they want to do. Not be stuck in some hospital bed being pumped full of poisons and radiation. And to me, what I think about the most is like the children. You know, I've seen what happens, what they do to kids. Well, it's no different what they do to adults. But to me, there's no need of it. If it was if I was to do that to you, you could charge me with torture and win. Look at how sick they are. Geez, they're sicker over the medicines are being given than what the diseases are making. Now look at this like the medical marijuana fight they keep going on about. Well now, yeah, I can go about become perfectly legal if I can find a doctor that would sign. Good luck. Actually the time and the amount varies a bit. Right, patient to patient, cancers to cancers. Actually the skin cancer I cured in Halifax there the last time I was down. 4 days. They took less than 1 cc. Remember them old caps we used to buy back in the day? You know, less than what it would take to fill in them caps. 4 days later, it's cancer free. He never even ate any of it. Just putting it on a band-aid and putting on the cancer. 4 days. Oh, they're going to give me a reward. Free room and board for the next 10 to 15.
That's how it goes inside.
Oh yeah, it'll be inside, yeah. You're going to get frostbite there.
3 squares a day? It's not going to happen, man.
Oh, I've pissed off every cop. Well, do you know what the problem is they don't realize this. Well, some people claimed it was a mental disorder, right, from childhood or something. I can't quite understand the concept of fear. Right? And I don't see why I should. You know, it's not. You know, I don't bother no one. But the things I'm not scared of anyone. I'd rather be friendly. Easy going. Gotta love life. Well, there was this 9-year-old little boy. No, Christ, it's down in the States and it's miles away, right? Like, you know, I can't afford a trip. You know, like, seriously. Well, I try to save up. Maxed out my credit card. I spent about $5 grand. Now, the funny part was I make 10 grand a year. Now, Rick had this right down to a science. I can't remember how old he was the first time he had brain cancer. And, well, down there, if you haven't got insurance, guess what? Kind of expensive, eh? Well, they saved the kid the first time around. And I'm not sure it was a year or 2 years later the cancer came back. He went through the chemo route. I guess they got the cancer. But they also got basically the house, the cars, lost their child. I mean, it wiped this family right out. Right? So all of a sudden, you know, a couple of years after that, all of a sudden, you know, like I say, third bout with cancer. Well, what happened was the kids, well, how they first noticed was the kid go to walk out the door and end up walking into the wall. He'd miss the doorway. Right? And start staggering and stuff, and, you know, it's just, they couldn't figure it out. But like I say, I found out this tumor's back. By the time, you know, but by the time I got the medicine to the kids, you know, as in to the parents, right, in their hand, The kid was bedridden. Well, they had they carried the kid from the room and stuff, right? 3 days later, he's up running around terrorizing his mother. 3 days. Now, to me, like I say, from someone bedridden, as the father put it, he's terrorizing his mother, right? Cool. All I need to know. Yeah. That's a bonus. Yeah, 'cause what I'm going to do now is set them in the fridge. See, normally I would only get 5 tubes, and there's enough, right? It's just this particular strain seems to produce more than what a lot do. Now what will end up happening with that extra tube, that's going to go to somebody. There is another patient, I'm not going to name her, I didn't quite have enough. She's on the medicine now, right? Has been for a while, but I didn't have enough for the full treatment, and that's going to give it to her. So to me, out of this 1 pound, there's 2 down. Right on. You know what I mean?
Darren McCormick stayed up all night making a treatment for someone who's close to me who has cancer, at no charge. He's since been sentenced to 3 years in prison. And this is a recurring theme with all the Phoenix Tears members still here in Eastern Canada.
If I'm telling the public anything that's a lie, well, why don't somebody come and defrock me? Why don't these medical doctors stand up and put me in my place? And I'll tell you why they can't do that, because I'm telling the truth and they know it.
Ja, for 90 minutter siden så hadde Chris Harrigan 796 abonnenter. Nå har han minst 797, for jeg har lagt den til. Det var en veldig interessant versjon. Veldig irriterende med tidskoden. Synd at filmen aldri ble ferdig. Synd at den filmen som ble annonsert i slutten der, sikkert heller aldri blir ferdig, men det skal visst forelegge en arbeidskopi av den også på nettet, så skal vi se om vi kan få finne den. Jeg skal spørre han Chris Harrigan hvor han ligger henne, for han er jo interessert i spredning. Dere ser jo det der står «Please share», så det skal vi gjøre. Det hadde vært kjekt hvis filmen hadde blitt gjort ferdig en gang, for sånn tidskoder midt i bilder og sånt, det er jo ikke noe særlig kjekt å se på, men budskapet er jo bra da. Knut er jo litt skeptiske til om ikke dette med hasjkureringen er overvurdert. Altså, ikke sant? Vi får jo ikke lov å forske på det. Richard Branson, han mener at det er ganske effektivt mot hasj. Og når Virgin-stifteren, altså grunnleggeren av Virgin Records og Virgin Airlines og hele tatt, Richard Branson, han er ikke hvem som helst han, altså. Når han sier at han tror at det virker mot kreft også, så stoler jeg på Richard Branson rett og slett, altså, jeg gjør det. Dessuten så tror jeg på det selv også. Altså, for det første, jeg har ikke fått kreft. Jeg må passe meg nå, for jeg bruker jo ikke hasj, altså. Dette på grunn av blodtrykksproblemer, som jeg har sagt, men begge mine foreldre døde av kreft, og det har nå i hvert fall ikke jeg tenkt å gjøre, så på et eller annet tidspunkt så er jeg bare nødt for å begynne å produsere olje, for den slipper den i hvert fall å røyke. For kreft vil jeg ikke dø av, og jeg tror på det der. Jeg kan jo diskutere det i direktesendingen i morgen klokka 18, hva dere andre tror. Om det bare Knut som er skeptiske. Jeg vet ikke hvorfor Knut er så skeptisk til akkurat det, for han tror jo på alle de andre positive helbredende effektene som hasjoljen har. Det er bare akkurat kreftene er litt sånn skeptiske til, på grunn av at en mener at det ikke er vitenskapelig nok dokumentert. Men det er akkurat der du har problemet. Det forbanna landet du bor i, Knut, unnskyld at jeg sier det, har jo gjort det umulig å forske. Altså USA har ikke gitt forskningsmiljøene tilgang til marihuana til å forske på. Det er det som er problemet. Det er landet ditt sin feil, altså. Her er gjenslinger, den der jævelen. Jeg anklager ikke Knut. Knut er et offer, han også. Knut er litt heldig, for at nå ser det ut som neste år blir det lov å dyrke i New Mexico. Og der ser det ut som det kan være. Jeg vet ikke hvor kaldt det blir i forhold til høstjevndøgn. Jeg forklarte det litt i går i direktesendingen, at hvis du dyrker ute, så vil plantene, så lenge det er mer enn 12 timer med lys, bare vokse seg store og vokse seg store, og de vil ikke gå i blomst. De går først i blomst på høstjevndøgn. Men så trenger de en del uker med god temperatur for å få store og fine blomster og mye bødd og god THC og sånt. Og det er ikke så mange plasser hvor det er varmt nok til det. Så til og med i Spania og i Portugal så er det vanlige det å dyrke innendørs med kunstig belysning og sånt. For det blir rett og slett for kaldt. Gran Canaria er den eneste plassen hvor du kan ha en årlig avling. Men det er kun en årlig avling. For du må plante den altså ut på sensommeren, og når høstjevndøgnet kommer, da blomstrer de. Det er en avling i år, og det går ikke an å trikse det til å få det mer. Ja, da må du altså rett og slett eventuelt dekke plantene med mørke plastikksekker, sånn at de tror det er natt. Det går jo an å gjøre det også, men da skal du tette det ganske godt til. Altså en vanlig plastikksekk, sånn søppelsekk, er ikke nok. Det er jo ikke svart. Det er bare sånn. Altså, prøv å se hvor mye lys det kommer gjennom. Nei, det må være skikkelig mørkt. Så det er også blende av en utendørs åker, sånn at den tror det er natt. Jeg har ikke noe tro på det. Nei, men det går jo fint an å dyrke et par planter inne. Hver mann 2 planter, 3 planter, 5 planter. Hvis hver mann har 5 planter, så har de nok til eget forbruk. Det går greit det, altså, så jeg fatter ikke at det skal være ulovlig i Norge. 5 planter er lovlig i Spania. I Portugal er det lovlig å ha så mye du vil. Kan dyrke massevis. Derfor er det mange spanjoler som har leid seg plasser i Portugal for å dyrke. Det er jo ikke mer enn 6-7 mil. 6,5 er det vel her ifra til grensen. Nei, det er vel 7. Kreativ. Kilometeren er ikke så mye å krangle om. Jeg tenkte at vi helt til slutt skulle høre Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun med Pink Floyd. Men Mona Tone har mye godt å si om medisinsk marihuana. Så hun skal få ordet før vi hører Pink Floyd. Jeg beklager lydkvaliteten på Mona Tone. Det er ikke noe jeg kan gjøre med det. Jeg har prøvd med all verdens slags kabelgreier og sånt for å prøve å koble lyden til inngangen på padden der. Det er bare det at hvis jeg setter i en plugg der, så kobles ikke mikrofonen her i padden ut, så det går bare ikke an å gjøre det. Altså, hvorfor i all verden kan de ikke ha lagt en linje en gang, altså? Altså, en Apple-produkt så bortimot det er så perfekt, og så kan du ikke koble til et linjesignal. Altså, hvorfor ikke? Altså, en iPhone også, du kan ikke koble til en intervjumikrofon. Altså, ellers hadde iPhonen vært alt det du trengte for å lage TV-programmer. Men du kan ikke koble til en intervjumikrofon. Altså, en kobler ikke... Du kan gjerne koble til en sånn liten sånn så du har i øret, men du kan ikke stå og intervjue med den. Nei, altså det å sette en plugg i der, koble ikke ut mikrofonen. Det er så frustrerende. Derfor er lyden på monotone dårlig. Ja, det er en ganske lang sending dette her. Men det var jo kjekt at noen holdt ut helt til slutt da. Dere får ha en riktig god tirsdag. Så velkommen til direktesending i morgen klokka 18. Da har vi vel mye å snakke om, har vi ikke det? Hør på Mona Tone, vi kan diskutere det hun sier også.
Bruk av medisinsk cannabis i tillegg til, eller i stedet for vanedannende medikamenter, er bedre for helsen. Likevel er tilgangen så begrenset at den i realiteten er ikke eksisterende for fleste. Det mener jeg er en trussel mot folkehelsen, skriver André Nilsen, styreleder i Normal Norge. Se for deg at du lider av en sykdom eller lidelse med symptomer som hemmer din funksjon i hverdagen betydelig. Kanskje er tilstanden kronisk. Kanskje er du ute av stand til å jobbe fulltid, eller ute av stand til å pleie nære relasjoner i livet slik du skulle ønske, som å gå ut med venner eller besøke familien oftere. Veien til lykke i livet, ifølge forskning fra Harvard, er å ha flere meningsfulle, nære relasjoner i livet og delta i meningsfulle aktiviteter. Det kan være betryggende å vite at lykken ikke kommer fra jobbstatus eller materielle verdier, men samtidig krever det også sitt for mange å opprettholde og pleie en eller flere relasjoner i livet. Energi og overskudd, for eksempel. For en som er sykemeldt eller ufør kan dette være svært krevende eller umulig å få til dersom relasjoner med eget sykdomsbilde blir for overveldende eller krevende, noe den ofte er for mange, i lange perioder, og med langvarig sykdom kommer lidelsen sjeldent alene. Kroppens design bygger på et gjensidig samspill mellom det fysiske i oss, kroppen, og det ikke-fysiske, det mentale, psyken. Dette gjelder når vi er friske, men gjelder like mye, og er nok kanskje mest merkbart når vi blir syke. Cannabis er legalisert i Canada, og i saken fysiske og psykiske lidelser gir symptomer med glidende, gjensidige og sammenfallende overganger mellom det fysiske og det psykiske, og alt inngår etter hvert i samme spiral av smerter og ubehag. Mange får for eksempel en dropp i syke når de blir forkjølet. Kroppen blir dårlig og tankene følger etter. Går de på en psykisk smell kan dette også trigge fysiske reaksjoner eller symptomer. Kvalme, skjelvinger etc. Over tid kan en utsatt syke være årsak til mange fysiske lidelser som infeksjoner, kroniske smertelidelser og mange mener kreft. Tilgang på riktig medisin kan bety forskjellen på et liv med eller uten symptomer. Et liv med eller uten symptomer kan bety et liv med eller uten energi og overskudd til å leve det livet man ønsker. Når symptomene reduseres får en overskudd til å tenke klart, være mer til stede og delta mer i livet generelt. Nøkkelen til lykke for de som er syke ligger, ikke overraskende, i en reduksjon av følte negative symptomer. Det finnes medisiner mot veldig mange tilstander, lidelser og ikke minst symptomer, men veldig mange av disse kommer med negative bivirkninger, spesielt etter langvarig kronisk bruk. Spesielt er medisiner mot angst, søvnløshet og smerter sjeldent ment for langvarig bruk. Medikamentene kan gi god lindrende effekt på umiddelbare eller plutselige symptomer som FX og bruke valium ved panikkangst. Ved langvarig bruk derimot, utvikler kroppen en fysisk avhengighet som hemmer kroppens egen evne til selvregulering og gir ubehagelige til potensielt livsfarlige abstinenssymptomer dersom en glemmer eller slutter å ta medisinen. Vanedannende medikamenter bærer med seg en betydelig risiko for mange mennesker, også ved kortvarig bruk. Likevel fikk 900 000 nordmenn utskrevet et vanedannende medikament i 2013. I 2017 fikk over 1,2 millioner nordmenn utskrevet et smertestillende medikament, inkluderer bruker av paracetamol, ifølge Folkehelseregisteret. Unge Høyre sier ja til cannabis som er en kilde til flere virkestoffer som kan bidra til reduksjon av mange lidelser eller tilstander som oppleves hemmende i hverdagen av den rammede, som for eksempel angst, fysiske smerter, betennelse, søvnløshet og depresjon. Medisinsk cannabis bærer ikke samme risiko for negative bieffekter som tradisjonelle medikamenter innenfor samme behandlingsområde gjør. Det finnes ingen overdosefare og er langt mindre avhengighetsskapende. Ikke bare det, men medisinsk cannabis virker å redusere følte negative symptomer fra vanlige medikamenter når det kombineres med tradisjonell medisinsk behandling. En studie fra Harvard University viser til at eldre som brukte medisinsk cannabis opplevde bedre kognitiv funksjon, økt energinivå og brukte mindre av sine vanlige medisiner. Det finnes mange studier som dokumenterer enkelt cannabinoider, som THC og CBD, virkestoff i cannabis, sine effekter på ulike lidelser og smertetilstander. Forskning viser derimot at effekten er best dersom man har tilgang på produkter som er laget fra hele cannabisplanten. Det generelle tilbudet av tilgang til medisinsk cannabis som gis pasienter i Norge i dag, er mer restriktivt enn hva som gjelder for de sterkeste og potensielt farligste vanedannende medikamenter som finnes på det norske markedet for legemidler. Alle kan i prinsipp søke om tilgang, men dersom du ikke har alvorlig ondartet kreft, gjerne i siste fase, HIV eller en kronisk nevrologiske smertelidelser, kan du se langt etter å få det godkjent. Til og med disse pasientgruppene må vise til at ingen andre tradisjonelle medikamenter har gitt ønsket effekt i behandlingsforløpet. Man er altså pliktig til å prøve alle andre, og langt farligere alternativer, av medikamenter før staten en gang vil vurdere om du får godkjent, lovlig tilgang på et mindre farligere, mer helsebringende alternativ. Tenk om staten hadde som policy at man måtte krasje bilen sin, og gjerne flere ulike typer biler, før man fikk lov til å ha kollisjonsputer installert. Dette er i beste fall en uheldig tilnærming fra en nasjon som Norge, som har såpass høyt fokus på folkehelsen, og spesielt et høyt politisk fokus på et godt helsetilbud til våre eldre og den øvrige befolkningen. I verste fall, i realiteten, handler dette om mennesker fra hele samfunnet som går flere år med negative bieffekter, nedsatt funksjonsevne og med faren for fatale konsekvenser, fordi tilbudet om medisinsk cannabis er fraværende for dem. Moralisme kan være livsfarlig når den blir satt i system. Det er ingen hemmelighet at stigma, tabu og forbud mot cannabis er drivende faktor for den begrensede tilgangen som gis til planten i Norge. Dette er også drivende faktor for at mange pasienter selv ikke kjenner til de medisinske egenskapene til cannabis, fordi kunnskap om planten har blitt fortrengt og undertrykket fra nasjonale og internasjonale myndigheter i nesten en hel generasjon. Selv de færreste leger kjenner til cannabis sitt medisinske potensiale eller helsefremmende egenskaper. Enkelte ikke rusgivende virkestoffer fra cannabis burde være like tilgjengelig som Paracet og Ibux er i dag. De kan lindre samme symptomer uten overdosefaren eller faren for å skade nyre og leven. Mange vet ikke at Paracet og Ibux er skadelig for indre organer, eller at de har en overdosefare knyttet til seg. Tilbake til studien om lykke og nære relasjoner. Det finnes de som bruker cannabis illegalt enten i stedet for, eller i tillegg til vanlige medikamenter de får utskrevet. De fleste av disse bruker cannabis for å lindre eller selvmedisinere mot symptomer som hemmer deres funksjonsevne i hverdagen. Men problemet til samtlige er at hos deres bedring i nevnte symptomer, opplever de at de sjeldent kan være åpen om egen bruk til familie, venner, etc. I frykt for formelle og uformelle sanksjoner fra omgangskretsen eller øvrig samfunn. Igjen er stigma og tabu i samfunnet årsak til at mange individer i Norge må velge mellom et sosialt liv eller en bedring i sykdomssymptomer. Velger de bort cannabis i frykten for straff eller andre negative reaksjoner, risikerer de at negative symptomer fra sykdom eller medikamenter tiltar. Dermed blir håpet om et liv med overskudd til å pleie sosiale relasjoner, eller delta i meningsfulle aktiviteter, likevel sterkt svekket. Man taper uansett. Hvordan tilrettelegge norske myndigheter med dagens ordning for at disse menneskene kan ha en fair sjanse i jakten på lykke i livet? Enhver ærlig og opplyst sjel vil nok innse at det gjør de ikke. Enhver politiker, beslutningstaker i Helse Norge og hele det øvrige samfunn i Norge bør være sterkt bekymret for konsekvensene av at moralismen fortsatt styrer helsetilbudet i Norge. Og hvilken moralisme? Retten til helse er en menneskerett og er formulert slik i Vos forfatning. Retten til den høyeste oppnåelige helsestandard er en av de grunnleggende rettigheter for hvert menneske uten forskjell på grunn av rase, religion, politisk overbevisning, økonomisk eller sosial posisjon. Legemiddelverket forklarer det slik. Artikkel 12 fra menneskerettighetene innebærer selvfølgelig ikke at staten skal garantere god helse for alle, men den krever at staten skal legge forholdene til rette for at innbyggerne skal ha best mulig helse ut fra den enkelte persons muligheter. 2018 er snart over, og dersom Norge skal gå inn i fremtiden som en forkjemper for egne innbyggeres grunnleggende rettigheter, er det åpenbart at vi har en omfattende jobb å gjøre, men da må først moralismen vike for fornuften.